Hello everyone, welcome to the Moody Gooners podcast. 2023-24 season is finally underway, and it's great to join you all again. Hope you've all had a lovely summer. Hope you've all been able to get away and enjoy some nice R&R, get away from the madness of the football season. Jason, how are you? Nice to welcome you back again.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's good to be back. I'm very well. Chomping at the bit for the new season, which is now kicked off, and very happy to be here. And let's see what the world has in store for Arsenal this season.
Exactly. It all planned. It promises to be a really good season, I think. But we'll dive into that today. We're going to probably do a slightly different format. We're going to go into our usual, where we sort of talk about the game and review that and the usual thing. We're also going to sort of have a section at the end where we just talk about some key things that have been happening in the news really around the club. Obviously, there's always a lot going on around the games themselves these days, particularly in the last few weeks of the transfer window. So we'll cover all of that off. And just a little reminder before we jump in around our sort of mission statement. So basically, we're an Arsenal podcast with a difference, in short. And the difference is really being the ability to combine our passion for the club with the importance of mental health, keeping that top of the agenda. So all the proceeds from our predictions we make are donated to the Mind charity from our bold predictions, which we'll run through there. That's our charity of choice. But really what we want to do is kind of talk about mental health, bring that to the forefront and sort of provide a space where we can be witty and entertaining as well, as we share our love for the Arsenal, the great club that is the Gunners. So today we're going to dive into the Nottingham Forest game. Obviously, first match of the season, 12:30 kickoff. Jason, what was your sort of feeling going into the game? I think a lot of Arsenal fans probably quite confident going in. It seemed like a decent fixture to have, a team who's got an absolutely rank away record. I think last season they've got like the second worst ever Premier League record away from home last season. I think they only got like 7 points away from home all season or something like that. So on paper, it did seem like a favourable fixture, I guess, to kind of start. But what were your feelings going in into the game?
I was buzzing. I genuinely thought we put 4-5 past them. Easy. I thought this is the perfect game to open the season with. And I mean, you say 12:30 kickoff, was actually 1 o'clock because of the ticket, because of the embarrassing situation that we have with the new ticketing system. But yeah, slight delay. But I was buzzing. I honestly thought we would pummel them. And the lineups came out, and I was a bit, okay, slightly bit weird. We sort of followed on from last season, tail end of last season, where we were playing Partey at right back. It seems Arteta is very much sort of copying the Man City blueprint, isn't he? Where he's sort of shifting, that sort of extra defender into midfield to bolster the midfield numbers. And you can kind of see that it was going to work with Timber, I think. Coming across, although he started out on the left, you could quite see that he was going to be that sort of third centre back. But I was keen. I was very happy, and I'm just so happy that football is back. This summer, honestly, it's just without football, it's just like you're just sort of like waiting around. You're like, and the weather's been so crap as well, so you just it's the first to look forward to, and then the football comes around. And it's just you're buzzing again for it, and I'm just completely absorbed by it again now. How about you?
Yeah, I have to say, like I normally quite like when the season's over because I get like a nice proper break between not feeling so tense, because I'm one of these more worrying supporters, I guess, who gets a bit nervous before matches and really wants a victory each time we play to the point where it probably affects my physical health. But the problem is we have the whole Declan Rice saga, which I was absolutely like going crazy for, and that sort of really sucked me in. But I think obviously as the season comes back, I think coming into this game I was probably a little bit more nervous than I was, because it feels now that shit's going to get real a bit more. I think there's obviously a lot more expectation around us than before, and I'm not one of these fans that thinks I think we need to embrace it. We want to be in this position. I mean, what's the alternative? Being fumbling around in eighth with a bunch of sort of tier 2 players knocking around the squad. So I think we, as a fan base, as a fan base, I think we need to really embrace it, and it's much better to be in this position than what we've had, with Socrates and Matteo Guendouzi, and
those sort of days. Oh man,
yeah. So we've obviously come a long way. So I think there's an element of needing to embrace it, but on the other hand, I do feel that if we get to the end of this season without some kind of silverware being lifted, then I'm certainly not catastrophizing now, but I think this has got to be the season for me. Last season, I was gutted that we sort of threw away the domestic cups a little bit. And I do feel that with the squad that we've got now, the additional depth, the quality that's come into the club, I feel that this is the winning season, and some winning has to happen. And when I mean winning, I mean not finishing top four. I think most people have us nailed on for that already.
Sure.
You still got to earn it, but for me, we've got to win a trophy this season.
I completely agree.
It's kind of key. But going back onto the Forest game, I mean, when I first saw the team, I was kind of borderline disgusted by it in terms of like what sounds a bit strong, but I've got, like, maybe it's slightly old fashioned, but I've got this sort of thing about never ever ever, unless it's an injury or suspension, never rotate your centre halves. Never rotate them. They don't need rotating in the same way that more explosive attacking players do. And I think if you move Ben White into the middle, as he's done, you're taking away what Ben White does in the combination play that he does with Odegaard and Saka. Similarly, if you take Partey out of midfield, you miss the I think we forget already just how brilliant he was for 90% of last season. So, and as much as I love and rate Thomas Partey a lot as a player, I just was not sold on him at right back. I'm not that against. I know that Ben White moving to the middle, he can do it very well. I'd almost be more inclined. I've been thinking about it since. Almost be more inclined to say, why can't Ben White be the guy to play right back, but invert into the midfield? Because when he first joined Arsenal, I seem to remember us playing against Villa at home around the start of the winter when the season he joined, and I remember he went on this marauding run where he ran past about 6 or 7 players and got a shot off or a pass off. And I remember thinking, wow, Ben White can really carry the ball. I didn't really know how good he would be, and I just kind of think Ben White's very good at right back, but I also think he's got the legs, he's got the technical security. He's very silky on the ball. I feel like he could do that position, and we could still keep Thomas Partey in the middle. What was your? But then I'm keen to kind of know what kind of side of the fence you fall on this one. So there's a school of thought that says you play as much of your strongest teams you can, minus the odd little thing here and there. Versus we're playing Forest at home, they're not going to be so much of a goal threat. Can we sacrifice the centre half to then have an extra man in the middle of the park? So what side of the fence do you fall in on that? Because I've kind of flitted around it. I still don't want to see Partey at right back again. I actually wouldn't mind Ben White doing that role potentially. I think he's got it in his locker. But where do you fall?
On the head there. I mean, my view is that it's the first game of the season. We're at home to Forest. I mean, I think I can't remember what the score. I think we trounced them 4 or 5-0 last season in the same game. And I think genuinely, I think had this been a bit of a harder fixture, maybe like Man United or something at home, he wouldn't have messed around so much. He would have been a bit more solid at the back. I mean, this is my feeling. So I just think that given the opposition, I think he thought, right, this is an opportunity to be a bit more fluid with the formation, and try that sort of inverted thing, because Partey was popping up in the centre as well. It wasn't just he's a right back. He was doing the sort of inverted thing that Zinchenko would normally do on the other side. So and because obviously Timber had such a promising sort of pre-season. And even in this game, for the first half, he looked really assured, and I just thought, this is another string to our bow, if you like, where we can have that sort of the 3 centre backs that are all quite pacey, comfortable with the ball at their feet, because I think they're all quite of a similar mould. Those 3, Saliba, White, and Timber, whereas Gabriel is your a bit more sort of old school, rough and ready type centre back. So I think he's taken a calculated risk there, Arteta, with the lineup, given the opposition. If, as I say, if he played Man City or Man United or one of the bigger clubs who offered more of a threat going forward, I think Partey may not have been playing there, and I think he would have been anchor in the midfield.
Yeah, I'm inclined. I'm inclined to agree with that. I don't think Arteta's so stupid as to take those kind of risks in those higher profile games. But I have to say, if Thomas Partey is so good in midfield and he ends up drifting into midfield anyway, there's a bit of me that thinks, why don't you play him in midfield? Because if he was a really good right back, then I'd actually be going, well, fair play. But for me, he doesn't offer enough defensively at right back. He's I think once someone runs past him, he's not that quick on the turn. His recovery pace isn't really there. So I'm not sure about it. I would love actually to see Ben White. I don't know what you think about this, but to see Ben White be given an opportunity to run, into the midfield and play right back. Because I think he's got the engine, and I think he's got the quality on the ball as well. But then I guess, does that mean Partey comes out of the team because you've got Declan Rice in there? It's one of those.
I think
plenty to chew on.
I think it depends on the opposition and the sort of game that you're looking to get and what you're looking to sort of put forward. Obviously we had Havertz alongside sort of Odegaard and, Rice in the midfield. I think, again, if you're playing a team that offers more of a threat, then I think Havertz may drop out of the team. I think it depends on your opposition, really. You can only play the team that's in front of you. And I think first game of the season, he thought, okay, that this is an opportunity for us to really stamp our authority on the game and really go for it. I mean, it was quite a brave selection. I was all right with it. Whereas, last season towards the tail end, it was much more of a surprise. I thought Partey did all right, to be honest with you. I thought he did really well in the game. He was all right down that right side. I thought he sort of broke up play, managed to step up, get involved in the attack, drift into midfield. I was pleased with how it sort of panned out. Obviously, that changed when Timber went off and Tomiyasu came on. But I was all right with it. I'm quite pleased that we've got these options now, and I think the additions in the summer give us that ability to play in different ways. And this is something you and I spoke about in the podcast from last season, was that we seem to be very rigid in the way that we were playing, and we needed a bit more sort of fluidity and like an alternative way of playing. And I think with the numbers and the types of players that we've brought in that can play in those different positions, it just gives us more options, and I'm all for that, really.
Yeah, and I think last season really our first 11 picked itself, didn't it? Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, last season, I feel that teams couldn't stop us purely because we were able to do the things we did really well. The plan A was so good that as long as we kind of got the performance and the intensity levels right, it more often than not got us over the line in the end. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for having teams sort of struggling to kind of work out how to play us over the weekend, and maybe we drop the old curveball. I mean, I do feel that Thomas Partey's this is a game where maybe you can probably stat pad a little bit. I mean, I read that I think Saliba had something like 127 passes and no, he attempted 130 passes and completed 127 of them, because that's basically but that to me tells me that no, he's not really got anyone sort of challenging him at that end of the pitch as well. It's probably easy for him. He's probably got time on the ball. I mean, by all accounts, I mean, Forest really were trying to do the low block and kind of hit us up the channels in transition with pace. And I do think, Partey again, he attempted 107 passes and completed 100 of them. So I do think there's an element to which this was a favourable game to do it, which probably does see me leaning on that side of the fence of, okay, maybe it wasn't dodgy. But I have to admit, when you first see it, you think, oh, okay.
It's surprising, isn't it?
And it was tricky.
With Gabriel on the bench as well, you're like, oh, that just looks a bit odd. But I couldn't. When the game started playing, I could see what he was trying to do, and I thought, okay, this is the right time to try something like this. But look, the result is what mattered at the end of the day for the first game of the season. I mean, I wanted a 4-5-0, but it wasn't to be. But so getting into the actual game, what were your thoughts? What did you think?
I thought we started, like, as we've kind of become quite accustomed to do. I think, you know, we started off with a lot of intensity, started off with a lot of energy, got rewarded with the goals. I mean, I do think there were sort of elements of the half where there was a bit of the horseshoe kind of coming into play, but I kind of think that's only natural, really, when you're playing a team with such a low block. But at the end of the day, you know, we created the goals. You know, when you look at the way, I guess we're going to talk about, let's rip the band-aid off and talk about Martinelli's assist. But I think, you know, he's got two players around him working in tight spaces, pirouette, puts it into an area, and then, you know, Nketiah gets the slight nick off the defender. But it's a good, you know, solid, hard, low finish past Matt Turner, returning to Arsenal, obviously. First game for Forest in the Premier League. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, you can talk about low blocks all you like, but if you're 20 odd minutes in and you're 2-0 up, then fantastic. And you know, I think we had something like 84% possession in the first half. So Forest very much had a very unadventurous game plan. But I do think, you know, it was great to get those two, like, relatively early goals, and that obviously then just opens up this kind of idea of, okay, well, you know, Forest are now going to have to come out. Surely we're going to win by at least 3-0, maybe 4, maybe more. Never quite transpired like that, but yeah, I mean, love to get your thoughts on the Martinelli assist as well. It was absolute.
I mean,
beautiful.
He looked super sharp. I mean, him and Saka, they both looked super sharp and up for it. And I mean, he started off quite quiet, Martinelli, but the moment he got the ball, it was just like everything was popping and crackling around him. He just seemed on it, and that little bit of skill to sort of unlock the defense, and whether he meant that to be a pass to Nketiah, we'll leave the jury out on that one. But nevertheless, it was phenomenal, and it was genius, because I think, as you say, before the goal, although we were dominating, and I think one of the stats that came up, I think we had like 90% possession at one point, you know, leading up to the goal. It was, they literally, we were just pinned them back and they couldn't get out. I mean, I think they had one actually really golden chance that, you know, we fell asleep at the back and Brennan Johnson was through, but he hit it over, you know, miles away from on target. But apart from that, we pinned them back, and, you know, we couldn't seem to break them down, and it needed that little bit of ingenuity, that sort of that masterstroke from Martinelli to unlock it. And as you say, Nketiah got a little bit of a deflection, but good finish. And then we see it. The moment we scored, it just sort of, we relaxed a bit more. You could sort of sense it. The players sort of felt, oh, okay, we can get into our normal, you know, stride and pattern and rhythm, and just sort of play these nice little close 1-2s and start off unlocking things. Yeah, I mean, I was delighted, and, you know, get on to the second goal. Then it wasn't long after the first one, the Saka goal. I mean, wow. It's a contender for goal of the season already, in my view. It's absolutely
beautiful, isn't it? It's a thing of beauty.
Sublime.
It's a thing of beauty.
It's phenomenal. What a finish! I mean,
and do you know what? I think sometimes he's such an unselfish player. Like, when I think about what he does as a player, I think last season he seemed to score a lot more goals by going on the outside and hitting kind of shots high into the roof of the net with his right foot, or crossing and cutting the ball back with his right foot. And I know he scored against Man United at home with that lovely left foot low drive into the corner, but this was just a thing of beauty. And what I noticed as well, watching the highlights afterwards, is you actually could, when they showed the angle behind the goal, you could hear it was the same angle as what was on the big screen, and then it was like a silence, and then the crowd went ooh, like that. It's beautiful.
Oh, it was phenomenal finish. You know, I love the little, similar to what Nketiah did. The sort of ball came in and he shifted his weight to sort of get that half a yard on the defender, and then sort of drove in, and that the finish, something else. It's just unreal. I stood up and applauded at that one. It was fabulous.
Yeah, I want to see Saka do more of that. I mean, he's such an unselfish player by nature. I mean, he makes good decisions in and around the area, but I don't recall many times where he's cutting on his left like that and done basically the Arjen Robben thing and whipped it into the corner, and he's got it in his locker. I think a lot of the time he might hang a ball up to the far post. So I do think we are guilty of overplaying a bit as a team. But I'd love to see more of that because he's got it in his locker.
I'd like a few of them to try and do it. I mean, take some more pot shots from outside the box. Not necessarily pot shots, but like I think a few of them. Ødegaard's got it in his locker. I think Martinelli might have it. Declan Rice had a few shots. He seemed all right with his boot. He had a couple of shots.
He looks like he's going to carry more of a goal threat this season. I mean, I guess when Partey drops into the midfield, he kind of comes in as more a defensive player. Probably gives a bit more license to for Rice to get forward. But he helps. He had that shot in the second half, which hit the base of the post, and a shot that he didn't quite connect with, that kind of scooped up high over the bar. But he looked like he's potentially got. I wouldn't bet against him scoring 5 to 10 goals this season once he, providing he can get his kind of fitness and his rhythm together, and get used to the system quickly. But I think
he seems
looks really good in his debut.
He seems to have slotted in really easy and it's really sort of seamless sort of transition into that midfield. He looked really comfortable and at home. And obviously he's a bargain by today's values. If we're judging
it's mental. I do think as well, being a DM or potentially a number 8, I don't think the focus is going to be. I think what was so nice about his performance is that kind of understated quality about it. He's just going to hold that midfield together this season. So I was really happy with it. I like the guy. I like the human being. I like the quality he brings, the leadership. But it was good to see him. I mean, apparently he's not even fully fit. He's still carrying. I think he had a bit of. Apparently, he had like a kick in training on a calf. I think that kind of kept him out of the not the Emirates Cup, kept out of the one of the games in the US. It might have been the Barcelona one actually. And apparently he's got a few side effects from that. So I don't even think he's quite there. As probably a lot of the players are, to be fair. But I do think there's more to come from him. So, but I mean, the first half. What were sort of closing thoughts on that? Anything else you sort of noticed or?
Once the 2 goals had gone in, I thought, oh, here we go. This is it. I was rubbing my hands. I was like, right, the gloves are off now. That's it. We're going to come out and it'll be 3-4-0 and Forest will just collapse. And I was fully expecting that because once you're 2-0 up, the players, you could see they were not, I wouldn't say relieved, but they were more relaxed. They were able to play the game that they normally play. And I was fully expecting us to just to put them to bed. But it wasn't to be, was it, in the second half?
No, it wasn't. I mean, I guess the thing we've got to tackle first in the first half is how Timber's come out. He's been given the all clear to come out and play, and then less than 5 minutes gone in the second half, he's down. And obviously, as we record this, it was confirmed about half an hour ago that it is an ACL injury and it requires surgery. That he's probably going to be out from anywhere between 7 and 9 months, and then he's obviously going to get match fit. So I mean, it's the next season player, isn't it?
Isn't it? It's it's gutting for the player. I mean, God knows how he must feel. For us as well, it's awful because this guy was. I mean, you and I had watched a few YouTube reels over the summer, and we were a bit like, oh, not so sure. And then we'd seen him in pre-season, and he looked really, really on the ball. And even in the first half of this game, this guy looked really. I think what impressed me most about him was his reading of the game, the anticipation that he had. He seemed to be positionally always where he needed to be at that moment in time, and he could read the game really well. And I was just like, wow, this guy's he's really top quality. But I mean, he took that sort of that knock at the sort of end of the first half, and then obviously they brought him back out, and it was really innocuous, wasn't it? He sort of went down on his own weight, and it didn't seem too bad, but obviously he's torn something, and that's him done. I mean, what's
your take on it though? I mean, because what's interesting is, like, you saw Tyrone Mings go off at the weekend. He was clearly in a lot of pain on a stretcher. Timber was able to kind of walk off at half time. So I guess when you're looking at it from the outside, you think, oh, maybe he's got a slight tear or some muscular thing. Because if you're able to walk off the pitch yourself, then is it that bad? But where do you stand on like the culpability of the medical staff? Because I mean, obviously ACLs can happen to anyone, but for me, if there's any doubt at all, as players are kind of finding their rhythm going into the season, you'd imagine that Arsenal would not want to take any kind of risk on any player.
I don't think you could really hold it against the medical staff on this one. They would have gone through some tests. It's down to the player as well. It's all very well somebody else saying, "Oh, your leg is moving fine," but if you're in discomfort, it's for you to sort of say that and say, "No, something doesn't quite feel right." Now he's obviously gone, whether he's trying to sort of just, I don't know, be brave, or just say, "Oh no, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong. I'll run it off," sort of thing. But I think that comes down to him personally, rather than pinpointing the medical staff at being at fault for that. I think it's too easy to sort of pin it on the medical staff in this instance. They've only got 20 minutes or so with him. They would have had him on on one of the sort of massage beds, having a look, moving it around, seeing what range of motion he's got with it, putting some weight on it and seeing what's what. And I just think it's just gone. I think it may have just been a little bit fragile after the first half, and then something's just happened, a little bit of movement and a bit of force as he's trying to go for a ball, and then it's just gone. And I think it's just one of those things that's happened. And but what it has done now is it's put us at a real sort of disadvantage, because as we said at the beginning of this podcast, the lineup and what sort of Arteta was trying, I think that's kind of, he's lost that ability now a little bit with that, because I don't think we have another centre back that can do that sort of role that Tim would be doing. You're looking at people that would come in to replace him. Tomiyasu, I'm not quite sure if he's up to that same sort of level.
No.
Zinchenko, I can't really see him being that sort of third centre back. Can you? He likes to sort of drift into midfield. So,
mind you, though, I mean, I personally, when we signed Timber, I know he played. I think he played over 80% of his games for Ajax last season as the right-sided centre half. But as soon as he came in, and when I looked at what kind of quality he had, to me, and when you look at how good our centre halves have been as well, I did kind of look at it and go, I could see him being a really good right back for us. And then obviously he ended up doing pretty well at left back. So I kind of more benchmark him against the likes of Tomiyasu, like you say, but also Zinchenko and Kieran Tierney if he's still knocking around at the end of the month. But I just think I'm going to put it out there and say that he was our best player in pre-season for me. Like the level of consistency and the power, the versatility. I was so excited to see him playing. Yeah, my heart goes out to him, to be honest. It must be a pretty lonely place, just moved to a new country, and I'm assuming now he'll go back to the Netherlands for after his surgery to kind of spend some time there. But just wish him all the best. And
absolutely.
In terms of where it leaves us, I mean, what do you think? I mean, Kieran Tierney looks like he's out the door. I mean, I don't think he kind of does the kind of stuff that Timber can do, but I feel like our other options are just injury prone to a degree. But on the other hand, I don't really want to send the message to Timber that we've just had you in, you're injured, right? We'll sign someone else then. I want us to look after him as a human being, but I'm also aware that Zinchenko's not had a pre-season. Tomiyasu's basically a walking injury, waiting to happen, it seems, since he's been at the club. So keen to kind of see what you think about that, really.
Well, I think obviously last season we had the double whammy, didn't we? We had Tomiyasu and Saliba both out, which impacted us. I mean, we all know what happened. We sort of fell off a cliff the moment sort of Saliba. I'm not saying that was any reason, but it was one of the biggest sort of compounding reasons for us to sort of not be able to play the way that we wanted to was due to the injury to Saliba, and obviously then Tomiyasu leaves us quite thin. Those two now being fit, inverted commas, as they are at the moment. I think we have to. I can see us bringing somebody in on loan. I don't think we're going to necessarily, splash the cash to bring somebody else in. I think we can we can get by with what we've got as long as we bring in somebody else in on loan, with the proviso that the person that we bring on loan knows that they're going to be filling the gap, plugging the, and I think I told you before we got online here that there's links to the Southampton fullback, Walker Peters, I think it is. So yeah, I mean,
makes a lot of sense, that one, to be fair, because he can play. I know he's been tainted by Tottenham to a degree, but he can legitimately play left back and right back. He has the versatility, and you like to think he's gettable with Southampton in the Championship.
Sure.
Although they've just sold Lavia for a king's ransom, so they'll probably want 80 million for him as well now. So
you've got Edu, and Edu. I mean, we only have to look at the David Raya deal to know that. I mean, what a bit of business that was to bring him in on loan. So I think. I'm expecting us to get somebody in on loan. Where that leaves sort of someone like Kieran Tierney. I mean, the rumours have been abound the whole summer, and he's still with us. And he doesn't seem to have many suitors. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about. I've forgotten the name, but there's a player.
Newcastle one that's floating around, that rumour, but.
Yeah, but there's a player that Newcastle are looking at now at left back to replace. I mean, you never know. Apparently, Luca Digne is on his way to Saudi Arabia from Aston Villa. Maybe Unai Emery could get involved there. I don't know. That might be an option, but I still don't know why we can't sell our players. To be honest with you, it's a big problem. I mean, how can Højlund be worth 72 million and Balogun, that scored 3 times as many goals as him in just as good a league last season for a mid-table club, be tabled for 35 million, absolutely blows my mind. But
it is crazy.
I guess we should probably review the rest of the second half.
Let's
this one.
This stuff at the end, because we've obviously got lots to say about
all
this.
Over the gaff here, aren't we? Yeah, but I mean, I think Arsenal are just guilty once again, really, of just taking their foot off the gas. I mean, you can always get caught out. I mean, I reckon the Timber injury probably did kind of. I remember back in the day when Eduardo got his leg busted up. It seemed to sort of mentally affect the players. Maybe there was an element of that, but it did feel that if Arsenal just kind of play their game right, be defensively solid, still keep one eye on not kind of letting Forest in, but it felt like they, in transition we could pick up another goal or two. But what was your take? I mean, it feels like we get to 2-0 in a lot of games, and last year we were 2-0 up at Anfield, we're 2-0 up at West Ham. Both games finished 2-2. And I have to be honest, when O&E scored, I looked at him and this just feels very Arsenal from last season. And again, I know there's a big churn and change in the squad and the systems, and it's an evolution on last year, we think, for sure. But what we also take, I mean, it was a absolutely lightning pace from Elanga down the left wing. He's absolutely fresh, off the bench. The guy is absolutely rapid.
The legs on that guy, Jesus, the pace. I did not know he was that fast.
Yeah, and the delivery into the box was just perfect and right on the money for the finish.
Very good movement from O&E. I've watched it back a few times, and the way that, because initially when Elanga was coming in, going down the left-hand side, steamrolling down the left, Ben White was tracking him, O&E, and he had him. Ben White was sort of in front of him. But then at the last moment, it was very good movement from him. He sort of dived in front of Ben White to get able to get his foot on the end of it. And he just caught Ben White out, I think, basically. Just caught him napping at the final split second. I mean, it's very harsh to sort of point the finger, but yeah, if Ben White had sort of stayed up a little bit more and held his ground a bit, maybe he could have ushered A1E a little bit away from it. But I mean, it was a good goal, good breakaway goal. I mean, the thing is, as you say, we took our foot off the pedal and we just sort of invited that pressure onto us. We could have killed the game. Look what City did to Burnley. 3-0, Bosch, done. Game over.
Yeah.
And this game, after the first half, I was fully expecting 3-4-0, done. Comfortable. But again, as you say, it's very Arsenal. We sort of get to that point where we've we feel like we've done all the hard work, and then we just got to go, right, okay, game's done. And it's like, no, it's not. You've got to see this through. And
I
and
think the level of the Premier League is so good at the moment that in many other leagues, like if you're PSG and you're 2-0 up against Lorient or something like that in France, they've got no chance. And in certain leagues, I think Bundesliga and the ones where there's sort of one team that's dominant, but in the Premier League, the quality is so high that you can get caught out by a sucker punch pretty easily. And it's disappointing, to be honest. I mean, the stats are now saying that I think we've had one clean sheet at home in the last 12 matches in the Premier League, which is, it's really poor. It's really poor. And we do have good, we do have players that can, we do have good defenders. We've got good midfielders that can, we press from the front with the likes of, maybe we need someone like Jesus back who can kind of stop the ball getting down the end of the field so much, or maybe it's a concentration issue. I'm not too sure, but it just just felt very Arsenal, and it leads to I don't think that necessarily Forest really had that much threat when they did pull one back, but it just felt a bit familiar from last season, to be honest. It was a great goal, great breakaway goal. That was the way that they were going to probably score it. And I guess when you're dominating possession and territory, there's naturally going to be more space available in the opposition half, but disappointing.
Yeah, I can echo those thoughts. Very disappointing sort of second half. Nothing really materialized from it. It was a bit of a sort of non-event until, and we sort of left the door open. We kept inviting that little bit of pressure, and we gave them that little sniff, and all it needed was that sort of injection of pace from Elanga. And it made for a very sort of nervy last 10 minutes, closing out the game.
We saw Gabriel coming on for Martinelli to sort of shut the back door, and Trossard, like for like with sort of swap with Eddie, but it's just
we've got to kill games off. We've got to learn because, as you say, this is something we did last season with over that sort of April period, when we sort of went off the rails a bit, with the Liverpool game, the West Ham game, we took the lead, and then we just lifted our foot off the accelerator. And we need to, if we're going to be serious contenders this season, we need to learn from this game right now and just be like, we've got to be completely ruthless and clinical and put these teams to bed. Hopefully that's the message that Arteta's been giving them this week in training, because a tough game against Palace coming up, and if we're 2-0 up away, we need to be finishing that game off. We can't be leaving them with some options. I don't like it. So
I guess the good thing is we've got the 3 points in the bag, and we've still got stuff to take out. I guess it's obviously a much darker place to be if you draw, or you end up losing that game somehow, or at least drawing, and then the mood is obviously lower. But I guess they can go into it with it keeps them on their toes, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Although I have to say the way that City won their game was very kind of same as last season. The way we won our game was kind of reminiscent of kind of how we finished the season off. But a win's a win. I think it's obviously always important to. I don't agree with this idea that you kind of you get into the winning months of the season at the end, and that's when you've got to come alive. I think you've got to do it all season. I think to beat this City team, you've really got to be on it for night. Last season we started off well. We've got a relatively nice sort of initial 3 or 4 fixtures to start with. I don't believe in this thing where you can kind of drop the ball a little bit at the start as long as you're there in April. Yes, that's when things start to kind of come to there, but you've got to have the foundation of these wins in at the start of the season. You've got to play well. You've got to almost get perfection really to get past the City side, haven't you?
That's what put us in the position last season. Was the good start enabled us to push for the title last season. If we hadn't had that good start up until sort of Christmas time, we wouldn't have been there or thereabouts come sort of March, April time. It just wouldn't have happened. So I completely agree. We have to get off to a good start, and we do have a favourable first few fixtures. I mean, after Palace, I think it's Fulham, and then we got the big one we got Man United then.
United at home, yeah.
A win's a win. I will take that for the first game. I was hoping for more. How do you think? We've touched on Timber and Rice. I thought Rice looked very assured, very good. How do you think Havertz got on? Sort of.
Do you know what? I'm like a lot of. Sorry, mate. Totally cut it in there.
It's all right.
I mean, I'm like one of these people that I was a bit surprised at the amount of money that we've spent on him. That dumpster diving at Stamford Bridge thing probably still weighs a bit heavy on me from some of the players we signed in the past. But I find it interesting that we signed him, because I do have a lot of faith in Arteta. I think we might get to a point in 12 months' time where this player is unrecognisable, both in terms of how engaged he is, but also in terms of where he's playing and how he's playing. You only had to conceive of Xhaka. I never had Xhaka down as a player that can arrive in the box and finish off chances, put it that way. So I've got massive faith in Arteta at this point around there. But in terms of his performance on the day, I felt like he faded in the second half, but I think a lot of the players did. But I actually thought his work off the ball was quite. I think the one concern I had before he joined us was, yes, I think when he gets on the ball, he's good technical level. He does have some good quality about him. He can arrive in the box at the right time. When you look at his Leverkusen performances and reels at the height of his powers, he was able to finish the ball, and it was quite lethal in front of the goal for them. But the one reservation a lot of Gooners would have had would be around that sort of languid, almost a zillion body language and style that he had about him. And also I did not, when you think about how Arsenal kind of closed down from the front with the likes of Jesus, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, how feverish and how just relentless they are with that part of the game. I did not have Havertz to have that in his locker at all. I thought, okay, maybe we're going to have to take a hit on that aspect, but then maybe we'll get something else back in terms of what he can do elsewhere. But I was actually quite impressed by how bought in he seemed to be, how willing he was to be able to win the ball back and put himself about and sort of buy into what the manager's trying to do. I think sometimes it's kind of tough, because I think sometimes players can't help their body language and how they sort of, how it makes them look. Sometimes I don't think it's linked always to how they're feeling and how they perceive things. Sometimes it is, obviously, but I don't think it's always the case. But I thought he did some good defensive work, actually. I was quite impressed. It gave me a little bit more comfort that maybe he is going to be able to do that midfield role and will actually put himself about. What was your take on him?
I'm still on the fence with him.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, I thought he did okay. He did fade as time went on. I mean, it was his sort of, if you like, home league debut. He wanted to sort of make an impression. He a couple of nice little passes. I think he tried to tee one up at the T1 cross up, but it was okay. I mean, I'm still trying to work out where he fits in all of this, and what is the expectation? Is the expectation that he does what Xhaka did last season? If so, then I think, yeah, he can. He is a goal threat. He is more of a goal threat than Xhaka. He's a very good player to have as a sort of attacking source, but I'm still not. I mean, it was a hell of a lot of money to pay for him. I mean, I know things have gone a bit stale for him at Chelsea, but I'm still on the fence. Let's see. I will. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still not sold on him.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's still very early. I mean, and also I think, just to sort of like think outside the box for a bit, it's like, if we think that he's going to do exactly the Xhaka role, maybe our system doesn't have a Xhaka role. I think it's easy. I think what fans sometimes we're guilty of, kind of looking at what we did last year and try and almost overlay the team from this season onto last season. Go, right, you're going to do this role, you're going to do that role, you're a new player, you're just going to slot in there, and maybe there'll be we're already seeing Arteta being a lot more experimental. I mean, he does have that versatility, I guess. I mean, I don't think he's necessarily a great false nine, but I do think he can kind of get involved in an attacking area. Although, if your finishing's a bit dicey and you're not able to be a false nine so much, it does kind of make me think, well, the front line's probably not for him in this squad. But I think he will fill the Xhaka position, but maybe he'll bring some different characteristics to the game. I do think he's got the ability to play with his back to goal a little bit and bring other players into the game, whereas Xhaka has obviously very much played with things kind of in front of him and was able to kind of like play balls over the top. So I think stylistically they're obviously extremely different players, but his technical level working in tight spaces is quite good. So I think he could do a good job in midfield, but we'll see. We'll see.
So
I guess we've got to trust the recruitment, don't we?
We've got to just trust the process. That's what they keep telling us. I don't want him leading the line. I think Nketiah and even Trossard have got to be sort of ahead of him in the pecking order for that sort of number 9 spot when Jesus is out. But let's see what he can bring over the course of 10-15 games, and then we'll reconvene and see and pass judgment then.
What's your take on Trossard, just quickly? I mean, I felt like he was one of our best players in pre-season. He scored against the MLS All-Stars. He scored a couple of great goals against Barcelona. Every time he comes, it's quite hard to read him as a character. He doesn't seem to be that expressive. He seems to have the same facial expression, whether he's happy, sad, or indifferent. But I do kind of think if I was him, I'd be sitting there going, bloody hell, guys, like, what do I need to do to get a go in this team? What are your thoughts?
I think he's probably relatively content with the way things are at the moment. He's very much involved in the first team. It's not like he's not getting minutes. I think it was a toss-up between either him or Nketiah to start in the sort of number 9 role for the game. And he what is he, 28 now? He's a bit of a late bloomer for his sort of career. But I'm very happy with him, and he's going to get minutes. There's absolutely no doubt about it. The one thing I will say with Havertz as well is that it's just more options. There's a lot more options, and I do like the way that, I know he's not a like-for-like replacement, but he can fill a number of different roles in the team, which gives Arteta that sort of, if you like, that blank canvas to sort of move things around and be a bit more fluid with it, and I do like that. And I think that's the same for Trossard, because I think Trossard can fill a number of roles as well. And he's definitely going to get game time. And it's good. I think the competition's really good, especially for if Martinelli goes off the boil for a bit, you can bring Trossard in. If Trossard's not quite up to scratch, you drop him on the bench for a bit. I love the idea that we've got. I mean, this is what we need. This is what we were saying last season. We lacked squad depth. And, we brought him in January, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, look, there's another option. I mean, don't forget, Emile Smith-Rowe is still, as we both know, you and I are massive fans of Emile. So I thought he looked quite good in pre-season as well. And, he had the good tournament with the 21s. So I like it. I like it.
You don't think Trossard stylistically quite... I think he's the closest to Gabriel Jesus that we've got, to be honest, in that. Because Jesus to me is not a striker the more and more I think about it, and then Trossard's not a striker either. But when I think about it, kind of like the body type, how they play, the positions they pick up in, how they can kind of link play, like to me they're almost. I think if you want to kind of mirror what we're doing while Jesus is out for hopefully a few more weeks, only that. I don't know, Trossard to like Eddie Nketiah to me is almost at odds with how we do things a little bit. So I'm surprised he hasn't been given a go, to be honest. I'm a bit disappointed that he's not been given a couple of starts. I feel like he deserved at least a start against Forest. I would have personally started him.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I would have gone with Trossard for this one, but Eddie did the business. He got the goal. And look, if Eddie keeps scoring, or if we play Palace and he gets a brace against Palace, no one's going to be complaining about Trossard being out of the team then.
No, exactly.
If Trossard comes on the hour and he gives Saka a rest, or he comes on for Martinelli, I'm fine for that. It's going to be a long season, and they're all going to get minutes, I think. So I'm fine with that. Jesus, he's got his fitness concerns. We can't can't expect Eddie to lead the line forever. So Trossard will get his opportunity, I think.
Yeah. I think that wraps it up on the game for me. I don't know if you've got anything else to add.
No.
I think we can probably get into a couple of Arsenal news talking points at this point.
Let's go for it. So transfers and rumours. What have we got? So we got the Raya deal over. I really want to hear your thoughts on this one, because first of all, the structure of the deal I think is genius. I think it's how we've managed to convince Brentford to loan their goalie for 3 million with an option to buy. It's genius. I think that's fabulous bit of business. The concern that I have, like a lot of things that have been going around on me, is how that works from a dynamic perspective. I'm all for competition. You need to have competition. We talk about it with like bringing somebody else in on the right-hand side to compete with Saka, to sort of push him on. I don't think that necessarily works from a goalkeeping perspective. I think you need to be a bit more settled. And I think somebody like Ramsdale, I think it's only going to make him feel a little bit more nervous and lead to more mistakes, because he's going to be constantly looking over his shoulder. I don't think it necessarily works from when you're talking about a goalkeeper. What do you think?
Oh God, that's $1 million question.
Yes.
I guess there's different ways of looking at it. You could just kind of look at it in that kind of slightly mollycoddlish fashion and say, well, there's competition elsewhere on the pitch. We all as fans want Arsenal to win. Well, let's have the best goalie in and gives us the best chance of winning games, and then as fans we're happiest as a result. So I kind of feel like the goalkeeping position has lived a bit of a charmed life. In fact, I hate this idea of a goalkeeper being told when they're being signed up or in the negotiation process, you're my number one. I hate that in a way, because I think, what if he goes then plays a couple of half decent games and chucks a load in his net? I mean, I kind of inclined to agree with Arteta. I know it's a little bit goes against the grain, but because my thing is, as fans and as players and the club, we want the club to be the best that it can be. The way that it is the best that it can be is to win as many games as possible. The way it wins as many games as possible is to have the best players in the right positions and the tactics and all that right.
Yeah.
I love Aaron Ramsdale. I think he's a brilliant goalkeeper. I don't think he's bad with his feet. I do think he looked a little bit jittery at times last season, at the start of the season, at the end of the season. I do think he was pretty good in that kind of, for majority of the season as well. I do think he looked a little bit more nervous with the ball at his feet. He's obviously awesome at, pulling off absolutely world-class saves, and he's an awesome guy to have around the club and the dressing room. I think that no doubt can be made about that. But if you ask me who's the better goalkeeper, I think Raya is the better goalkeeper. And I've actually always really liked David Raya. As soon as I saw him, I was like, wow, what a keeper. So there's actually a little bit of me that just thinks I actually wouldn't mind him starting, to be honest, because I really, really rate him.
He's got to earn that spot, though, isn't he? Let's be honest.
He does. I do really rate him. I do really like. I think it's not just the ball. He's good with his feet, but he's also, if you look at his stats around, there's a stat going around expected goals that the goalkeeper would expect to concede versus the shots they had basically on goal. Ramsdale was about par, but I think Raya saved. There was another 7 goals he kept out that were expected to go in essentially, and then obviously with the ball at his feet, he's umpteen times. I mean, I really rate the guy. To be honest, a bit of a weird face. You have to get used to that probably over the coming weeks and months. But I do kind of wonder, is he an upgrade on Matt Turner? Yes. Is he an upgrade on Ramsdale? Probably slightly he is as well. So why would we not want the best guy in for the job? And I love Ramsdale, but I try at times to not get too emotionally connected too close to players, because at the end of the day, as a fan, if we play Ramsdale, say, on a given game and he chucks one in and has a shit game, then I'm going to be pissed off, just as I would if Raya was in goal. So for me, I'm excited by the signing. He's actually one of the ones that I'm most excited about this summer. But it's going to be interesting to see. I did watch Ramsdale's interview with ITV a few days ago, where because he's had so much rejection and been through that. He came into the club and had to win the shirt off Bernd Leno, so I think Ramsdale knows what the deal is, and if he does have to leave the club, he's not going to, in a year's time, he's not going to be without clubs wanting him anyway. So I think Arsenal are in a good position here, to be honest. We can easily make that Raya deal permanent, and he'll be 28 then, so that's still a great age for a goalkeeper. Ramsdale might lift his performance, which is going to be great for Arsenal again. And if Ramsdale does go, we'll probably double our money on Ramsdale anyway. So I actually feel that all the permutations are going to be good for the club. And I think, the only worry I do have is is it going to affect the kind of the culture and the vibe in the dressing room? But the goalkeepers tend to do a bit of training kind of away from the main group a lot of the time anyway. So I don't think it's going to really affect in the squad. And I think Ramsdale seems like a pretty down to earth guy that kind of knows what the deal is. It's a bit unconventional, I guess. I think we're one of the few clubs kind of with two goalkeepers of this quality. But at the end of the day, I want Arsenal to win, and whoever's the best guy between sticks to do so, then. And I really like the player, so I kind of wish we'd been able to sign him a few years back, to be honest, because that probably would have made things a lot more straightforward.
Do you think it'll be very much a situation where he starts in the cup games, guaranteed, and Ramsdale does the league, and then maybe they divvy up the Champions League?
That's a really interesting thing. I mean, we saw last season. I think he'll probably take things like FA Cup and League Cup. But I think Raya is such high quality goalkeeper. I feel like all bets might be off if Ramsdale has a couple of jittery games. Maybe, let's say, for example, against Palace, he passes one out to Odsonne Edouard's feet, who puts it straight in the net. It's going to put a lot of pressure on him. And I think with Matt Turner, you can say to Matt Turner, okay, you play against, someone in the Europa League group stages. I feel that the Champions League is such a high grade quality competition. We just need the best man for the job. And I think Ramsdale will start for the foreseeable future in the short term. But, you never know. We might end up getting to the end of the season and Raya's loan runs out and go, actually, Ramsdale's literally doubled the quality of his performance. He's, and in which case, again, Arsenal are the winners. I don't see a situation where we don't come out of this winning, put it that way. So I'm all right with it. I love Ramsdale, but Raya's an exceptionally good goalkeeper at the end of the day. So, and I don't believe in this mollycoddling of players. I think it just, I don't like the fact that we don't have someone to keep Saka on his toes. And luckily, Saka's such a high level of consistency and he's so humble and the rest of it. But I would love to see a player coming in on that side of the pitch that Saka knows that if he drops his performance for a couple of games, he's out. He's on the bench and he has to earn his play. That's the only way we're going to get better as a club. Like we all want Arsenal to win the Premier League and the Champions League, and this is the way big clubs move, in my view. I know it sounds a bit harsh, but that's just what I feel.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think we need the competition, but yeah, my thing is how that works from a dynamic perspective. They're two number ones, and there's only one spot. And with a goalkeeper, you need to have consistency. I feel, your defenders, they're all part of a unit. They all sort of they know the way they play. If you start chopping and changing, it might lead to a little bit of uncertainty, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I love the options. I do like the way that deal has been structured because it does give us that ability to go, yeah, we'll take that. Thank you very much. Or no, thank you, David Raya, but no thanks. It gives us a bit of breathing space. I credit to the team behind the scenes for getting that one set up. Any other transfers or rumours floating around? It's mostly outgoings really that we're waiting to happen, isn't it? At the moment?
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, there's still time to go. There's still time," but I'd want to be signing. I would have wanted our outgoings to be done kind of by now.
Yeah, it's like 2 months left.
Yeah, I mean, I know some players are harder to get rid of than others. I know, like the Pepe thing might be a thing where maybe on August the 31st we're paying the guy to go, which I hate. It's bad business. But on the other hand, we'll lose money on him, but it kind of gets a player off our wage bill and he needs to go. But I still look at that. I could still list 8 to 10 players that we need them to go, basically. I mean, you probably could get rid of 2 or 3 of our goalkeepers. We seem to have 5 goalkeepers now, which is a madness to begin with. And then obviously Cedric, he's still knocking about. Tavares, apparently Nottingham Forest have held talks with Arsenal over the weekend and have put, I'm hearing like a 10 million essentially, which I think is great. We'll take that. Thank you very much. Rob Holding for me has got to go.
Well,
Pepe
do we keep hold of Rob? Do we keep hold of Rob now that Timber's gone? Can we envisage Rob getting much game time, even with Timber out?
I mean, at the end of the day, Tomiyasu is starting centre half for Japan, providing he stays fit. Why can't he play in that role? Ben White can play in that role. You got Gabriel, you got Saliba,
Kivior as well.
Kivior. To me, we've got 5 options in there at centre half. Rob Holding's the 6th for me. I know Tomiyasu hasn't really played at centre half for us, but he plays that left-sided centre half for Japan. That's his place. So I think Rob Holding just needs to go. I love the guy to bits again, but he's not at the level to win you a title. That's just a reality. It's the same as certain other players. It's the same with it's the same as Kieran Tierney. I love the guy to bits. I like his work ethic. I like his attitude. And Kieran Tierney's not awful by any stretch, but is he really that elite level you need to be shooting for to be really winning the big stuff? I don't personally believe he has certain things in his locker, a little bit more craft and finesse when he gets down to the byline rather than just blasting it across the box. So these are the kind of players that I'd be hoping to combine to get around 100 million for. And I'd be looking now in the last week or 2 of the window to go, right, let's make one 40 million pound signing in the front line and maybe get a loan player, as you said before, for Timber. And then I think we're in a good spot. I mean, I really do think that if we were able to land someone like a Kudus, for example, I mean, Brighton can't seem to strike a deal with him. West Ham are now in talks with him, but I just get this sneaky feeling: is he holding out? Is he waiting? Has he been told maybe via his agent? Arsenal might have a look at you. If Chelsea haven't bought him, you never know. I mean, maybe Arsenal. This is just me purely speculating. Maybe we've said to him, look, we're confident we can get rid of 5 players. If we don't come back to you by 5 days before the end of the window, crack on. But we want to buy you. And if you're Kudus, you're not gonna sign on at Brighton and West Ham. You're obviously going to try and wait. And I think if we got a player like that in, and maybe a Kyle Walker-Peters on loan for the season, I think brilliant. I think we're then pretty well set. But it does worry me, how quickly we're able to get rid of players. Obviously, if there's not a market for players, it's hard to generate a market but there seems to be a market for Balogun. There seems to be a market for Tierney. I know it's ridiculous money that Besiktas offered for Rob Holding, but there's even a bit of me going, just get him out. Get him off the wage bill. Get him gone. We should probably be able to get 8 to 10 mil for him, you would have thought. But let's just get him out. Besiktas looking at Pepe as well. Apparently, I would have liked to have seen probably another 40 to 50 million in the kitty by now, to be honest, to enable us. Because you never know. People talk about the David Raya thing. What's to say we couldn't have signed him permanently the other day because we've got all this money now. We've now come into. But it's still. I was always worried about Edu being able to land the big players, but I'm now a bit worried about him being able to sell. Paying off players to leave is such bad business practice.
Yeah, but I think the Pepe deal represents the last of those sort of signings that we made that weren't under the new regime, if you like. And I think you got rid of Aubameyang, he's gone. Özil's gone. All those sort of players that we had, the old guard, if you like, they're gone now. And Pepe is that sort of last standing player, although he's a bit younger than those lot. But I think once he's gone, I think we're going to be a bit more of a well-run club. I mean, the Balogun deal really is the big one, isn't it? Once that, you're right, 40 million, he's worth 40 million. What I'm hearing, the rumours that everybody else reads is that Inter don't have the money, basically. They need a striker, They've only got Lautaro Martinez, basically. They can't get a deal done for Lukaku, so they're looking at Balogun, but they don't have the money. I also heard that Tottenham are sniffing around Balogun as well.
I heard that as well.
Which they've come across a bit of money of late.
Yeah, but I don't like that though.
No, I don't. I don't want him to go there either. I really.
It's a weird one because in a way you think, well, if he's not good enough for us, and if Tottenham essentially buying our cast-offs, then that's not going to really get them to kind of leapfrog us in any way. But I hate the idea of us coming up against him and him knocking one in. Or
I actually think he's all right. I actually think he probably on a par, if he was given a chance, he's on a par, if not slightly better than Eddie. I just think that Eddie's got a bit more under his belt now, and he's got a bit more to show for it, that he's been given that extended opportunity. I just think we were looking at Balogun as purely, a cash cow, basically, in this instance. And I think it's a little bit unfortunate because I do think that we could use him. If we're saying we need another striker, why don't we just keep Balogun? I mean, I'm not sure.
No, and he's
left on his deal.
I think that he wants to go. To be honest, I think you don't want to keep an unhappy. I mean, he's been training away from the group. I don't think you want to keep. Yeah, I think Arsenal I don't think Arsenal are against keeping him. That's just my gut. But I've noticed on all of the stuff I've read and the footage and the training pictures, he's sort of been training in sort of the Cedric group. Seems to be sort of training away from everyone. So I feel like he's at a point now where he goes, I want to be the main man somewhere. And obviously Inter Milan would be an amazing move. Apparently Monaco had a bid rejected the other day. I think it was around £34 million. But yeah, it blows my mind. And he's probably still too young to go to Saudi, so we can't flog him over to those guys for an extortionate amount. So and obviously you don't want to sell him to the Premier League because you don't want that to come back and bite you in the arse. But it might be that I don't know why I'm so fearful of Spurs. Maybe we're all just selling to him. But the idea of him,
West Ham,
Declan Rice, they maybe there's no love lost between us and West Ham. The way Sullivan acted over the Rice thing, we really dug his heels in, got a slight overpay for Declan Rice. Maybe Arsenal are kind of saying, well, if you're not going to scratch our back, we're not going to scratch yours. But I do feel like there's got to be, like, I look at the Højlund thing, and I look at the way Brighton sort of move with regards to Caicedo and benchmarking that. Not that Caicedo is worth anything close to Rice at this point, but I do think if we can learn to sort of show a little bit of a bit of balls about it, maybe we can.
Well, I think that's what we're doing. We're digging the heels in, aren't we? Otherwise, we'd have accepted 34 or something from Monaco. We are digging the heels in, and the problem is that the market is bonkers right now. The sort of money that's flying around, specifically from West London, is insane. So the money, he's absolutely worth 40 million, if not more.
Strikers always carry a premium at the end of the day. And the guy went to one of the top 5 European leagues last season for a bang average team and scored. Or did he score 20 over 20 goals? 21. Yeah, something like that. So I think it's, and plus he's got the age thing going in his favour, and he's a full international now. There's the marketability of a player, and I get that Inter Milan don't have any cash, but I personally think he probably ends up going to a Premier League club. I personally think maybe a mid-table Premier League club on deadline day, because maybe we can get another. What's that?
I could see
West Ham.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind him going there. I got nothing against West Ham. I know they played hardball with Declan Rice, but I'd much prefer him there than Tottenham. Just makes my skin crawl. It's just awful.
Yeah, the thought of that. I know he's not a prominent player for us at this point, but not for me. Not for me. But yeah, my overall thing is we got to start moving some of these players on. It looks like Tavares is going to go. I want Cedric and Holding and Runarsson and Karl Hein.
Well, he's another one.
Pepe. I want all these chumps out. I want them gone. I want the squad to, because you can get a few cultural issues within the squad when it's too big. And plus, I really, really think, I mean, we can get greedy about it. You can always talk about what we need, but I do feel that do we need a right-sided attacker? Do we need a centre forward? I do certainly think someone who offers something a little bit different. And I'm not buying into this. It needs to be a 6'3" lump up front. I don't think we necessarily need that, but someone that's maybe can play as a centre forward, and also I would have loved to have Gakpo, to be honest, because to me he looks like someone can genuinely play up the middle and play on the wing. Something of that kind of profile. I'd take a Kudus though. I think if we got Walker Peters and Kudus, the first one being a loan, I'd be I think we're then right on for a title challenge this season. I just feel like we're always just that one player too short whenever we go into a season.
I think we're on for a title challenge as well, even without that. I mean, you've heard what's happened to Kevin De Bruyne, yeah? He's out for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
So there's a big hole. I mean, and I don't think they've necessarily plugged a lot of gaps in their squad. I mean, don't forget Gundogan went, and now they've lost De Bruyne for 4 or 5 months. They brought Kovacic in essentially to replace Gundogan. I know they brought in that centre back, the Croatian guy, Gvardiol. But that's a like for like replacement of Laporte. I think City, their squad is worse than it was last season. Don't forget they got rid of Mahrez as well. He's gone. I know he was sort of tapering off. And they've got this Cole Palmer guy who looks quite decent. But I think we've closed the gap on them from a squad level, I think. And I think
we have, but they're not going to stop. They're like, for me, they're going to get Guardiola's come in. They're going to sign Paqueta.
Yeah, Paqueta.
They're probably I think they'll potentially get two more signings in before. And I think at the end of the day, if Mahrez goes and Paqueta's in or whatever, that probably makes them quite strong. My thing with City is the hunger. Like, if you've got a lot of players in that squad Ferguson used to be so good at United around getting people out who didn't. He was a bit surprising because he maybe sensed the hunger thing. I think with City winning the treble, there's got to be players in their squad now that would go, I've done it now. And I remember being a Gooner back in the day when we won the double. There was almost that come down afterwards in a weird way. Like the lead up was so exciting, and when you won it was such a moment. But then about a month after, you're like, oh my God, it feels like a bit of an end of something, because we've now achieved the thing we've wanted to achieve. So I do kind of wonder whether that if the hunger levels stay up this season for City, I think they're still going to be formidable, to be honest. But there's been a few injuries around.
No one's done it 4 in a row, have they?
Yeah, exactly. And they were quite ominous the other night, but Haaland really feeds off De Bruyne, so I'm hoping that's gonna. And if they do sign a new player, how quickly can that player hit? There might be a chance for City to drop some points in the first half of the season, which again, we talk about coming into the winning time. If they can drop a truck ton of points in the first half of the season, then that makes it harder for them to get into that box seat come April. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Fingers crossed. Should we do a little bit of preview and predictions for the Palace game?
Yeah, let's do it. I think it's going to be a tough game. It's always tough, isn't it? Yeah. We've got an all right record at Selhurst Park, to be honest. In recent years, we used to be a bit dodgy there, but obviously the first home game of the season, I'm still going to back us for the win. I just can't see us keeping a clean sheet, to be honest with you, at the moment. I think we'll win. I think we're going to win 2-1.
Yeah,
to be honest, I can see a 2-1 win again.
I'm going to join you with that. 2-1. I can see us scoring first, and then them scoring, and then us sneaking a second. It's not going to be easy. It's really not going to be easy.
Yeah.
How did they won, didn't they, or did they draw?
They beat Sheffield United away in the first game.
Yeah. Edson Odward scored, didn't he?
Or even Odson Edward.
That way
around.
Whichever way you want to do it.
That's
the guy from Celtic, the former Celtic striker.
Excellent.
Yeah. Anyway,
so do you want to give me a bold prediction before we get out of here?
Well, I'm gonna stay 2-1 as well, mate. I'm gonna park it there at 2-1. I can't really.
Okay.
I can't. Can I see? I can see maybe Martinelli involved in a goal, maybe.
Do I stick that in?
Yeah, goal involvement,
okay.
Which includes assist or goal, I guess.
Yeah, it does. Okay, I've captured that. So let's get that. Let's get that in.
So yeah.
Right, anything? Yeah, anything else? Any other sort of talking points in the? Great to see Arsene Wenger get a statue. I think, like we both saw
really
that
nice.
when we were there for the Emirates Cup. It was wonderful. I think that's a long time coming, and it's a great piece of work as well, in my view. So that was good. I think I can't really think of too much else, to be honest. I think just Timber. Hope he comes back soon.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a while, but yeah. Other than that, yeah, I think we've waffled enough now. I think we've I think on to the next game now, Monday night, under the lights at Selhurst Park, and we'll see how we get on.
Exactly. Well, it's been lovely talking to you. Hope everyone who's watching this has enjoyed the content, and we'll catch you next week after the Palace game.
Indeed. Take care. See you guys.
Bye, Moody Gooners.
Bye.